back through our SMS line, that is 23059. Now let's get started. And many thanks, of course. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, thank you.
Many thanks, of course, keeping time, making time to be here this particular morning.
Yeah.
Now, to start with, can you share, tell us about you, what you do, and of course, as you proceed there.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
So my name is Susan Waithera Kagwe. I'm an advocate, commissioner for Oaths Notary Public. By God's grace, I've been in practice now for 20 years, and I would say I've specialized in my practice. I handle all legal matters, but specialized in handling family legal issues for about 15 years now. And apart from that, I'm also a church minister, and I'm happy to be here.
All right, yeah. Of course, even as you embrace this particular conversation, tell us about child custody. What does it entail? How does it go?
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much. So the issues around children are found in the Children's Act. We actually have a specific law in Kenya about children, just about children. And how do you go about getting into that situation? So, of course, generally, people in families, they are children, and there's not supposed to be any issue. And actually, there's not supposed to be any particular reason why a family would need, to get to know exactly what is in the Children's Act, get to be in the children's court. But it happens when either the family is no longer together, so there is a breakup, a separation, or a divorce, or possibly a couple had a child and they are not living together. So that is where the issues around children, child custody issues, parental rights, that's where they come from. Yeah.
Now, even for a layman's language, for the benefit of the viewer, you're saying that when a married couple separate, child custody comes in when the court now decides who to go with the child.
Yes.
Now, how do the courts determine what is in the best interest of the child, whether to go with the mother or the father?
Okay, so generally, I don't think that all issues about children go to the courts. Actually, in fact, in the Children's Act, it provides for what we call a parental responsibility agreement. So when two people are parents, a mother and a father, and they can't live together, they don't particularly need to go to the courts. But if they cannot agree, that is when they end up first. A lot of people first approach the children's office. So in every ward around the country, there is a children's office. So a lot of people approach that children's office and say, look, I have a child with this person, we are not living together, or he used to pay school fees, he has stopped paying school fees now. The second way is they approach a lawyer like me, and they say, look, we were living together, we are now separated, and I'm not sure what is the way forward about the child. Then now when we get into now the courts, so it will be either the mother or the father approaching the courts. And generally how the Children's Act is now, the laws around children have equalized both parents. So there is no superior parent to the other. Actually, both parents have an equal right over the children, so they are able to share both the rights and the responsibilities over the child.
Right. Speaking of equal rights, what rights do parents have when it comes to custody, and how can they protect those rights?
Okay, so actually the rights of the child are for the child. So it's not the right for the parents, a right for the child. So what the child has is a right over basic needs. Yeah. So the basic needs of the child are education, medical care, clothing, shelter, food, entertainment. And so you'll find that what the children's court tries to do is to ensure that the child gets their basic needs. Now, who is supposed to provide the basic needs for the child? It's the parent. So as the parent is providing the rights of the child, the two parents, then they also get rights to see the child, to take care of the child. And so the other aspect of it is that both parents have a right to parent the child. So that's why you find the courts giving both parents an equal chance to stay with the child. So what happens in such a case, you find a child ends up living in two homes, the mother's home and the father's home. And then both parents are given, I would say, a schedule or are given a breakdown on who will pay for school fees, who will pay for the housing for the child. So the rights of the child are even in the Constitution, which says that the Kenyan child must receive what is in their best interest and best for their welfare. Yeah.
Now, speaking about the child custody, if a parent wants to seek custody for the child, what does the process look like?
Okay, so as I said, first you can go to the children's office. If you cannot agree, because generally that is what we would call ADR, alternative dispute resolution. So you sit with the children's officer, and the children's officer explains to you what is in the Children's Act and helps you prepare an agreement. So it's like a mediation process. So if you cannot agree, then either, as I said, either parent is allowed to approach the children's court. So, for example, if you're a mother, and I know across some of the social media pages, some people have seen, this is also my personal experience as a person. About 13 years ago, I had to approach the children's court over my own children. So I approached the children's court, or a person would approach the children's court and say, look, I'm no longer living with the father of my children. And first we start with what we call custody. I would like to live with my children maybe during the school days, and then, so that's the issue about time. And then from there, now we come to the issue of maintaining the child. So those are the actual bills that need to be paid for the child. So what would happen is that person who approaches the court does an application in the court, files the application, and serves the other person. So in my case, I served the father of my children. And then from there, he has a right to now respond and say, no, I also want to stay with my children. I won't pay this bill, I'll pay this bill. And so the duty of the children's court is now to put the child at the forefront. Because remember, these are two people that are fighting. So they put the child at the forefront, and they say, okay, these are two children, one child. How has this child been living? So they try to really ensure that this child's lifestyle or life is not changed completely, because these two people can't agree or they can't live together. The other thing that the children's court will also do is, if the children are older, then they are allowed to come to the court, because there is what we call the ascertainable wishes of the child. So the court also listens to the child. Who maybe, and it's an interesting scenario usually, because the child, the magistrate will sit with the child. So the lawyers and the parents are not present. And our magistrates are well trained on child psychology. So based on all that, then the court will make a decision on how will the life of the child be like going forward. But maybe allow me to say that I've noted, because of how the Children's Act is now, generally, they are equalizing the rights and the responsibilities. So generally, both parents get time to see the children. And then when you look at the responsibilities both parents are handling, they are almost equalized. If, of course, one parent is financially much stronger than the other one, then they will get more responsibilities.
Now, when it comes to what are some of the common misconceptions that people have in matters, child custody in these cases, because maybe many times you see the court says maybe let the children stay with their mother and the father can, visit them. Now, what are some of the common misconceptions in these cases?
Okay, I would say it has come from history, because our laws have gone evolving.
Yeah.
Our earlier Children's Act, before amendments were made, generally the very young child or the very young children would stay with the mother most of the time. But now with time, both if the father is willing and he has capacity, then he will also be given good time with his children. So that misconception that young children are always left with their mother is no longer the case. The other one is people have always assumed that the father of the children will be given most of the responsibilities. You know, financial burden of taking care of the child or children is on the father. But now, as I'm saying, the law has equalized both parents on rights and responsibilities.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the common challenges that you see in child custody?
I think I would say, if you look at a child, let's say the child is, I think I'm a mother of Gen Z, so I hear now there's PP1, PP2, I'm a bit lost.
Yeah.
But generally, let's take an 8-year-old child. That child needs to go to school, they need to eat, they need to go home somewhere, and they need to play. And so a child's life or a human being's life is very basic. So the main challenge here is between the parents. One of the bigger challenges is because these two parents have a history. In fact, the reason why they've come to court is because they are fighting. They can't agree. They have their own issues that, let's say behind the tent, or issues that they can't resolve between the two of them. And unfortunately, the person who is now the victim is the child, because the child gets caught up in between the fight between the two parents. But if you just looked at what the child, and that's why they are called basic, if you just look at what is the basic need of the child, that is something you can resolve maybe in an hour. But you might find a children's case can take 6-7 months, because there is so much back and forth. Yeah. And maybe I would also like to add is that when the two people now are separate, remember that they can remarry, or something like that can happen. So this is not just about the two people. Sometimes now the battle gets to be a bit bigger, because the child is interacting with relatives on this side, or a new spouse, a new partner. So that's where the case becomes quite complicated. Yeah.
And many times we see that children get to stay with their grandparents. And, how does it come to that?
Well, legally, or if you look at the Children's Act, generally the Children's Act is talking about the biological father and mother. So if there are other relatives who are staying with the child, then, and there is a court case, then all that has to be brought to the court's attention. But that is not the actual intention of the courts or the Children's Act. The intention is, or the ideal position is, the child stays with the mother and the father. If they can't stay together, then the child is supposed to be spending time with the father and with the mother. Yeah.
Now, earlier on, we spoke about mediation. Now, how important is mediation, and how important is it mediation, of course, to the parents and, of course, the child? Okay,
so I'm also a trained mediator, we called Certified Public Mediator, CPM. And to me, once we get into a child custody battle, I always try to recommend to my clients if they would try mediation. In our courts now, there is what we call the court annexed mediation. So why I've found it quite something which I would say is quite okay to try, if it can work, is because remember that these two people share a human being, a child. And what mediation does, as opposed to a very heated court battle, is that these two people are brought to the table and they can now speak to one another or listen to one another. Now that in the long run is quite helpful for the child, because remember that the court process does not take, you can't litigate or be in the courts forever. Maybe the child is 5 and this court whole issue about custody ends when the child is 18. So mediation tries to preserve or bring back some kind of amicable communication between the two people. Right. But again, remember, if they can't agree at the mediation, then the matter still proceeds for what we call a full trial, or the full case is handled in the courts.
All right, now you've been in the field for now 20 years. How does history of domestic violence, affect, custody decisions?
It does affect the cases, because one of the things that's very important is something that the courts are now calling past performance. So how have both of these parents or these two human beings performed? Have they been violent? Has the child witnessed the violence? Did they consider the child when they were being violent? Were they violent towards the child? So all those are things that are considered when the court is considering which environment will be more conducive for the child to grow in. Yeah, so I would say in our society, domestic violence is very prevalent, and so generally that is always an aspect of the children's case. But you find a lot of the domestic violence is domesticated. The either party never takes the case seriously. It's just that you call people who say nilichapwa jana, so you don't follow through with a full case. So that one now in the children's court or in any other court can't help you. You having called your neighbor or gone and just picked an OB. If you want to follow through this domestic violence, now it's very clear that you have to follow through with a full case, criminal case in the criminal court. That those proceedings can help in the children's court in terms of saying, look, this person is a danger to the child. But you find in our society we quickly reconcile or quickly silence issues that are actually supposed to be dealt with. Yeah, so maybe that issue should be addressed, because it also recurs if it's not addressed.
Yeah. Right, now let's talk matters about relocation issues. Now, a parent may want to, to relocate to another country or state. Now, how does, that happen when either parent wants to relocate to another state?
I would say it's quite complicated, because remember that the parents generally, what happens after a children's case or at the end of the children's case, both parents get an order for joint legal custody, care and control. So when one parent wants to relocate, then again, if they can't agree, then they have to then go back again to the court. And then the parent, for example, who is being left behind, would need to know, okay, when will I see my children? So it's doable, because some of the cases go in a direction where, let's say, the child comes back to Kenya during summer. You understand? Or if somebody's in another county, then the other one parent gets all the school days, the other parent gets the holidays. Just to try and balance out the time.
Yeah. And what, how do issues like substance abuse factor into custody arrangements? Substance abuse or even mental health issues?
Yes, so all those are important, but you need evidence. Yeah, so a lot of the times what happens, this is a relationship. People are in a marriage or in a relationship. So you'll know someone is abusing drugs and you don't keep any evidence, because of course, even as Christians, you're also hopeful that somebody will change and you're praying for them and all that. But if you have evidence that this person has been abusing drugs, has mental health issues, has a criminal record, then definitely the court will always protect the child and give the child almost fully to the other parent who is, who has a safer or healthy lifestyle. Yeah.
Now, after custody is determined, what should the parent do if the other parent is not, following, the court's directions?
Okay, so the children's file is never closed. So what happens generally is the court gives a judgment and says, look, this is how the child, this is what the child, this is how this child will live. You will do this, you'll do that. So if that judgment is there, and then we call it compliance. There's no compliance. One parent, or even both, or one parent decides, look, when it's my weekend, I'll not bring back the child on Sunday. I'll stay with the child until Wednesday. I'll, just the thing of saying, it's my child, I'll do whatever I want to do.
Right.
Then that other parent can go to court and again tell the court, look, you gave us this judgment, but this person has decided, or no payment of school fees. This person has decided not to do what you ordered us to do. Yeah.
Now, under what circumstances can custody arrangements be modified after they have been established?
I think when one parent decides not to follow what the court decided, because the court orders or the judgments are not just a piece of paper. They are actually there to be followed. And remember that what is most sensitive about these court orders or this kind of judgment, it's about a human being, it's about a child. So definitely if one parent decides not to follow the court orders, then they can be altered, and of course they would favor the other parent. Yeah, and favor the child.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, and how can parents, address concerns about parental alienation, and of course, what steps can they take to ensure a healthy relationship, with their child?
I think I would say it's very difficult, but when the two people, when the couple has fought, I think we as a society need to put in more efforts to try and separate issues. That, look, we can't get along. You did this thing to me that was wrong. I also wronged you in this way. We may not reconcile, but we need to relate. We need to co-parent. So that journey is a very difficult journey. It's a journey I'm still working on that journey. It's a very difficult journey. But that issue of separating issues and saying, look, there is me and you who can't get along, but this child needs some kind of sanity. They need some kind of amicable way in which, we need to communicate for the best interests of the child. So I would say that that issue of how the two people can be able, maybe it's our communities and families and churches need to help or come in a little bit to try and help these two people, at least, even if it's just basic communication, because that really helps the child.
All right, to talk about churches, chipping in, and you being in the field for 20 years, how can, how do you help the clients overcome, sometimes custody can be emotionally charged. So how can you help, the both parents overcome these challenges?
Okay, I think I would say it's more about maybe my client to start with,
right,
and possibly sharing, because I'm not only a Christian lawyer, but I'm also a person who has walked that journey. So one of the things I do personally, now I don't know about my colleagues, is that I share my experience. I do a lot of counseling. I do, a lot of follow-up, checking on my clients. How are they doing? Because generally when the client gets into the person gets into this issue, you find they are very emotional. They almost cannot handle themselves. So it's more about working with the client for them to understand it's a journey and it's like a storm, and it will come after some time. Then the other thing is where there's a Christian lawyer in the marketplace. Prayer is important. Therapy is also important. Counseling also helps, even for the child. So I always think that when when issues of children are ongoing, then don't only focus, your mind is just on the court, I want this order, I want this order. If you need to go for counseling, if you need to go for prayer, and also I wish that our families would be more supportive, because sometimes when you have these issues, you're left alone to handle your issues on your own. And maybe it's because everybody is anxious. They were not expecting there would be any issue. Yeah, so I think our societies need to be more involved. Our communities our family members need to also come in and walk the journey with us. Or walk the journey with the person going through that kind of issue, like a custody battle.
Now, from where you sit, what are some of the strategies that you recommend for for successful co-parenting?
I don't know if I've done what I would call a successful co-parenting myself. My last born is 15, and he recently gave me feedback and said that I've not done very, very well. But some of the lessons learned, I think, is as soon as possible, get into a way in which you can communicate with the person amicably that you're co-parenting with. And then also put the child, their needs, their issues before your own need. Before your own pain, consider the child. Yeah, so the other one would be, now something I've learned 13 years later, this thing is not permanent. The child is growing. And so if you do not put in your effort to parent your child well, give them quality parenting when you're with them, then before you know it, the child is 18 and the battle is over.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, and from where you sit, what do you think is the important legal right that individuals should be aware of in family cases?
Okay, that the law is, our laws are good, and the laws are an equalizer. So there's no superior person based on gender, financial ability, or anything like that. So it's for us to know that the laws are there. It's just that you need to step out and get the laws to work for you. Yeah.
Now, even as you wind up, what advice would you give to to families conflicting each and every time?
I think I would never advocate for somebody to stay in a toxic relationship. And so as much as co-parenting is very difficult, it would be better to step away when the relationship becomes very toxic, and then get away to co-parent. Because again, also the children who are living in a toxic environment are also greatly affected. So either way, if you can resolve your issues, that is always the ideal. But if not, then you better step away from each other and give this child a safe environment in the two homes. Yes.
And are there any resources or support systems that you could recommend for parents dealing with custody issues?
I think there's a lot. There's a lot on social media, but also the FIDA is still assisting on these issues. And I think there's an organization called NALEP. So for those ones who can't really afford a lawyer, legal representation, then there are some bodies that actually assist. Yes, and the children's office is also there.
Now, even as we wind up, how do you see child's custody law evolving in the future, especially with the changing family dynamics?
I think our children are very empowered now. And so I would say for the parents, if we don't shape up, then our children are the ones who might walk into the court soon and say they don't want to stay with either parent. What option does the courts have for them? So I'm thinking that what is also evolving a lot is the human being, is the child, and we saw this with the Gen Zs and now the Alpha generation. Right. They are not the kind of child to just push around. So we as parents need, every human being needs to step up and become a better person and get to relate with the other person well.
All right, final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience in matters, family law and family custody.
I think for you see, the family is the basic unit of the society.
Right.
And so I think as a society we give up so quickly on relationships and on marriage. So I think that effort to really to try and, this is a person you decided to share life with, to try and see how best you can reconcile and live together. I think that would be the best. And also, as I'm saying, for our family members to come in and also assist, because it always seems like the couple, when after people walk away from the field where the wedding happened, they walk away and they leave the couple on their own to deal with their own issues. So I think that community involvement would also be very helpful. And also finally, because this is a Christian station, we are children and servants of God.
Right.
Let us pray for ourselves and our families more and involve God in everything that we are doing.
All right. Now, even as we wind up, someone who's watching you may want your assistance. How can they reach you out?
Okay, so thank you. So my office is in Westlands, 9 West, 7th floor. That is opposite Sarit Center. And my phone number is 0722 734 228. 0722 734 228. They can also follow me on Facebook and TikTok. On TikTok, my handle is @Sue_Kagwe.
All right, many thanks for, of course, making time to be with us here on EBN TV. We do appreciate your time. We get insights and educated. Of course, we shall be doing this, more and more, even as we educate our viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
All right, many thanks, of course, you, our viewer, for making time to be with us here on EBN Television. Many thanks, Judy Kipgetich, Getty Trace, Sammy M, Mpenda Amani, Jeffrey Somba, Mona, Emmanuel Armstrong, Lauren Kelly, just about to name a few. Asante sana, for your time. And of course, I was joined by a family lawyer, Susan Kagwe, who's navigating complexities of family law, one case at a time. All right, this is exactly 32 minutes past the top of the hour. Many thanks for being part of the program. You've been watching Morning Life with me, Martin Masharia. And of course, I do hope that you've been educated in matters family law. Of course, we shall be doing, much more episodes on this, even as we get you educated. All right, 32 minutes past the top of the hour. Your faith today coming up next in the top of the hour at 9 a.m. My name is Martin Masharia. Once again, do yourself a lovely day. And as always, let's do this again when God says we do.